We are here on week 5 and we're doing design and structure. I don't know that the homework is going to take us that long to look at because there's really only 2 things there. So I thought I'd see if anybody wanted to get into any of the stuff that was in the video, anything that raised questions or you're not sure.
See.
And one thing I'll say is there's a lot of stuff that's not discussed in the video that has to do with accessibility, which is a whole, I mean, you could spend, a whole hour or more talking about accessibility of documents. It does play a lot when you're deciding on formatting and structure, things like color contrast for people who maybe have color blindness or low vision and that sort of thing.
And we've been told to avoid text, like text boxes or anything that's sort of floaty. But I honestly, I find, because we're trying to do more and more accessible documents and everything else at work, and I'm finding that, I mean, we've done webinars and things like that, but the information out there on the internet all contradicts itself, and a webinar to contradicted some things that we've been following, like their gospel, and it's sort of like after a while, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, you have to kind of keep up with things. The text box thing might be an issue of how you format them, because some people plop in a text box as an image and then the screen reader doesn't see it. So if you're using a text box, it has to actually be text that a screen reader could read.
So you wouldn't use the insert text box function then, because
you could, but it depends. It depends on what the final format is, right? Because usually you don't leave things in Word. So yeah, I'm not sure what
it's to PDF.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever tested it with a screen reader on PDF.
Yeah,
but that could be the issue.
Somebody, one of our HR training people who's since left, ran a little thing, and he said to use, and let's see, I've found in the meantime that some of the things he said weren't right. To use a style in Microsoft Word called intense emphasis, and which has a border built in, and then you can like play with the format of it. So that a screen reader will read it as intense emphasis or something. So I've been doing that, but I don't frankly know if that's correct anymore.
Okay.
And I find the webinars and stuff, they sort of never seem to touch on these sort of weird things that come along. They tend to be more basic, or they get into law, and it's like I haven't quite found that kind of, like, I know how to format in Word. Now, could we move to the next? Which is some weird, like untangling tables and flow charts I've just given up on. Anyway.
The only thing I could suggest is, try it with a screen reader and see what it does.
I've done it with the voice, the reader function in Word, but I'm not sure if it's the same as an app used by like a blind person. Somehow it wasn't naming to me, even though headings were tagged correctly. It wasn't naming to me this is a heading, and I believe a true screen reader will do that for you. It'll identify hyperlinks and things like that. So anyway,
no, the Word reader just says the words.
It's a dictation app. It's not really a proper screen reader. Anyway,
like I said, accessibility is a whole other ball game that ties very closely with plain language, but
Michelle,
we didn't get into that.
Do you have any insight into just around the plain language as it relates to accessibility, as how, I don't know, stringent the laws are around it? Like, we've got WebStamp who are freaking out saying it's legislation, we could be sued, blah, blah, blah. That is not the feeling I'm getting from webinar trainers, and that it's more that you do your best and you try to include as many people as possible, but nothing's ever going to be perfect. And I don't, like we do our best about making accessible documents, but
Mhm.
I can't make, our auditors' financial statements fit accessible. I can't even touch their financial statements.
Mm.
I have to put them on our website and they have to be public. So, like how far can
Mhm.
you take this? But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got to make their own, every organization makes a call on
mhm,
how far they go and how much time and money they're willing to spend on
mhm,
making things accessible.
mhm.
And, Canada really has less um, legal force behind that sort of thing, I think, than the United
Yeah,
States does.
yeah.
And even the US, I mean, they have the Americans with Disabilities Act that says you have to,
But we've
um,
received stuff from our insurance company has their
mhm,
main head office in the States, and they sent us stuff once to put up. And I wrote back and said, I don't understand why this isn't formatted in an accessible way. I mean,
mhm,
we're a large company, and they acted like I had two heads. They said, we don't know
mhm,
what you're talking about.
right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah. Look,
You just
enforcement
do
of
your
those
best.
things is not is not top of mind for everyone, for
Yeah,
sure.
I do wonder how much the government comes out, the provincial government comes after you.
Uh,
Anyway,
I'm not aware of it being enforced, but it's more of a hey, this is what you should be doing, but I could be
we've had an
wrong.
initial audit, but it was a few years ago. It was before
Yeah,
COVID.
yeah.
And I think it freaked everybody out, but that's because we were so far behind even implementing anything. And I think that's where we got in
Mm.
trouble, not that weren't trying, is that some of the rules about setting an accessibility policy and that weren't even in place. So
Yeah.
anyway, I don't know. Just trying to get information on like how
Yeah.
much of this is real and how much is people freaking out in my organization.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not an expert on that.
yeah. But our
Um
lawyers aren't freaking out about it, so I figure why should we? I would think they would know, right?
right.
Anyway, anyways,
When you see
sorry
the
to,
bomb squad running,
yeah.
you see the lawyer freaking out.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to
No,
sideline.
it's okay.
I'm
No,
interested in
it's
plain language as part of accessibility.
yeah, and they are very closely linked, obviously. But there are factors in the accessibility side that are kind of beyond the plain language thing.
Yeah.
They take additional things into consideration that are beyond plain language, and more all the time, right? As it evolves. So yeah, it's a really interesting area, but it's not an area that I know enough about to really say anything with authority.
Well, plain language is a big enough thing to learn too.
Yeah, and I'm not, most of the accessibility stuff revolves around the web, and that's not really my area of expertise in terms of the back end stuff.
Mhm.
So
And that I find be part of the problem is they've got the technical specifications
yeah.
down to a T, and they've got like worldwide
Uh-huh.
specs and everything else. And then they somehow expect the word people to
To
figure
understand
out
how to implement
how to
that. Yeah.
take that kind of detail to documents. And it's like, I'm sorry, but it's just not the same thing.
Yeah.
We're not dealing with technical specs here. We're talking about people.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, even some of the stuff in the video, like the example I gave where you send somebody an email and there's for their MRI appointment, and then there's colored buttons at the bottom. If somebody's colorblind, they're
Not
not
gonna
going to see
see
those
it.
colors, but they still have words on them,
As long as
right?
you have the words there, I think you're okay.
So, but you have to make sure that the words have enough contrast against the backgrounds and all that sort of thing. So even some of those examples that I used as examples of good plain language implementation might come up against accessibility issues when you start testing them. And that's why testing is, always a great idea, because you think, oh, I'm doing this and it's perfect for plain language. And then somebody goes, yeah, but, that doesn't help me because I can't see that. or,
It's hard. It's just so nuanced. It's a whole other, set of skills, suitcase,
Mhm.
suite of
Yeah,
skills.
and I try to look at things now as like somebody who might be blind,
Mm,
but I can't even begin to think if they're autistic, dyslexic, have cerebral palsy. I mean, this
mhm.
is about everything. And it's like, sorry, we're editors, we're not experts on all these things and the apps that they use to help, or the mobility aids that people use. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So just toddling along.
Yeah.
That
You
most people
you
can
do
make
your
this up.
best, and
Yeah.
that's, and
Yeah.
the most you can hope for is that somebody actually sends feedback and says, "Hey, did you know that, you know, this
Like-
thing that goes ping
Mhm.
doesn't really help if you're deaf?"
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
things
I've-
like that.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. I was I'm editing someone's website, the content on their website, and in a number of places they have, to book a meeting, click here, and the click here is hyperlinked.
Mhm.
And I started, I was first suggesting to just say book a meeting and delete click here and
Mhm.
make
Mhm.
book a meeting the hyperlink. But then I was thinking, because I kept seeing it over and over again, and this organization is sort of an advocacy group,
Mhm.
not necessarily for people with disabilities, but they're an advocacy group. And so I was thinking, maybe they're doing click here because that has something to do with accessibility for one of the groups they work with, or something that I don't know about. Like, because I remember click here back in the, when the internet first came around, and
But it's considered bad web etiquette now, aside from not being accessible. The
Okay.
latest thing that links are supposed to explain, they're supposed to tell a person where they're going or what they'll find. So
Oh.
you're right, it should be book an appointment, not click here, not click here.
Right.
Like, so, or,
I
mean,
thought
that's the
so,
one thing
because
I
I
go,
haven't had seen click here for a long time.
Plus,
yeah.
so many, click here is going the way of don't touch that dial, right? No, most of the
Think of
people
it's
looking
touch
at
the
the
dial.
website are looking on a mobile device when they
Yeah.
can't click.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They tap
Yeah.
Right.
or swipe or whatever it is they do, but they don't click, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Just like we
that's-
don't have a dial anymore on our TVs.
Yeah, that's so true. It's that's
So change it to tap here.
the days of the
Debbie.
mouse. The days of the mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to, just describe what you're looking for instead of click here.
But can I ask, in terms of click here, could it be relevant to an audience that is not very computer literate and wouldn't necessarily know about links, or would
Personally, I think senior, like if my mother were on a computer, and she never will be, and it is just trying to sort out the mouse, I think click here would be about as much as she could handle.
Right.
Yeah,
no, this website is talking a lot more to the executive team and the other executives that they partner with and do community work with. It's more like that.
Yeah.
So they should be able to handle book your
Book an
appointment.
Yeah, it comes right back to the audience again, as always.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad, but it's good to know that screen readers, identify hyperlinks for the user.
Yeah, and I gather they can buy all kinds of different, like there are apps out there. There's one that's called Easy Link and whatever that will, like, because I always think, okay, if a blind person clicks on something, how do they know where they are when they get to the next website? But they have apps that spell it out for them, or tell them. It's not like you're not sending them out into a black hole kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I'd love to actually get my hands on a test version of one of those, just so I have an idea. Just what exactly they're hearing.
Mhm.
or, you know, how different
Well,
groups.
you
are.
know, if your IT department is freaking out about web compliance, then maybe they'd be willing to invest in that.
It's our webmaster and he freaks out about everything. So it's he's just very type A, but
Right.
he's just always convinced that we're gonna be sued. And it's like, for what? Because we tried to have something accessible on our site. Like there are bigger fish to fry out there.
Yeah, you're not. It's very unlikely you'll be sued. That
Yeah,
seems
yeah. You
unlikely.
get, you know, a warning about, like, they'll give you, you know, you must have this policy in place in a public spot by this time. I mean, that's the kind of audit that they do.
Mhm.
Anyway.
Yeah. So is there anything else about the whole design and structure thing that seemed unusual or surprising or needs further explanation?
No.
I think
No.
this is about simple, like, good design. Like,
Yeah.
our designers love to get fancy, but sometimes it's sort of like, you know what, fancy isn't always.
Everybody enjoyed the 1990s flyer.
No. I still get some stuff and everything formatted up the wazoo just because they're having fun.
Yeah,
And I have to unformat it all.
yeah.
Yeah, no, this was a really good exercise. And it's funny how you said at the beginning of the video, why, I think it was at the beginning, why are we talking about design in a plain language, you know, course?
Mhm.
But it completely made sense, you know, as I was going along and editing this website, you know, all this website content.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah, nothing turns people off a website like a big wall of text.
yeah, big wall of text and like, you know, images with text on top of it, and the background of the, you know, maybe there's a sky, but the sky has clouds and the text is white and you can only see, you know, I caught a number of those. I like to think I would have caught them anyway, but your course, this module gave me permission to do it and not feel like I'm stepping
Yeah.
on.
No, I mean, it is part of editing, right? Is to say, hey, this document isn't usable for these reasons.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop with, you know, commas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or capitalization.
Yes.
But
Although
yeah,
I
if
think
somebody's
my
putting
client-
white text on a white cloud, that's a problem.
Yes. Although I think my client thinks that, you know, thinks that I'm just dealing with the text. And
Yeah.
I, you know, mostly am. And that's text, actually. That is text.
It is text.
Yeah.
It's text, and you
It's
could
just the
argue
color,
that,
it's the color of the text.
yeah,
Yes.
it is text. I think that's fair game.
Yeah.
Totally.
By the way, I can't even read this, so how do you want me to check?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Good point. Yes. Good point.
Yeah. And I think like for me, I think the number one thing is headings. You know, when it comes to making documents useful to the reader, there's nothing quite as good as headings to tell them, you know, this is what this section is about, and let them skim. Like readers skim now. They don't, you hand somebody a manual because they've bought a new device, they're not going to read it. They're going to look for the bit that they need at that particular moment.
Yeah.
And if you don't have headings, they're never going to find it.
Yeah, they have to be able to navigate and sort of zoom in and out depending on what they want. They don't read in a linear fashion necessarily.
Yeah. And even like I do a lot of ghostwriting of blog posts, and it's very rare for me to write a blog post that doesn't have subheadings throughout it. Because, you know, people, their eyes get tired.
Mhm.
They want a chunk. They want little chunks. And then they want it broken up.
Do you have any sense of sort of how long you have, like most people will read? I know in our organization, we say sort of figure on about a third of a web page or what will fit in the top third of a laptop, and that's about as far as they'll read before they give up.
I
Like,
think
don't
you have to
read-
have some context,
But how,
right?
yeah, like how would you do that? Like I don't read stuff on a phone in the same way that I do on
Mhm.
a laptop. I just
And
can't.
if somebody sent you something that's part of your work, you know, you're
And
going to
you
read
would.
it
Yeah.
because it's part of your work. If you go to like a pulp culture website and you're reading, you know, trashy news about, you know, movie stars or something,
Mhm.
you're only going to read maybe 200 words tops before
Mhm.
you move on to the next thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, it totally depends on context, I think.
Yeah, and the purpose of the writing. I mean, if it's
Mhm.
informational, if it's service writing, it's different from feature writing,
Mhm.
where
Yeah.
you don't have the inverted triangle.
Yeah.
If you're motivated to get informed about something, you'll read something through. But you know, I
But
just
even
find
then, it
that
really
they don't
helps
even
to
have
chunk
an
it into little
attention
bits.
span.
Yeah, yeah.
The attention span is like when I'm skimming through Facebook, if a video doesn't start within a nanosecond, I go, oh, this is just taking forever. I just don't have the patience for it anymore. It's like, oh no, it's taking too long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. But even, you know, if you're reading a magazine, a print magazine, and you open up the page and it's just columns of text, and there's no pictures and there's no headings.
The New Yorker.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's challenging
Dense.
to get through that page.
Mhm.
You know, there's a reason most magazines put pictures on pretty much every page
And lots of white space.
and lots of white space. And an ad every second page, but that's another story.
What's better than the pop-ups all over the web pages that
Yeah.
just those drive me
Yeah.
wacko. I don't
Yeah.
know how anybody can get through anything with all that blinking at them.
Hmm.
Anyway.
That's because you're doing the clickbait thing.
No, I mean, certain websites that I need to use just seem to have things all over, and I shut them down, and then another ad appears, and it's like, oh my God. I don't know how they think that actually gets them any users or readers or anything. They're just annoying.
It must work just often enough.
Or it's just that they're getting paid by advertisers and they need the money, and that's it, you know, but.
Yeah, but it must work for the advertisers or they
Yeah.
wouuld pay for it. So
Yeah.
It's like unaddressed mail. It must work or they wouldn't do it.
yeah, or you know, spam emails, right? They get
Yeah,
their
what?
whatever
Oh my God.
1% return, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I want to give you $600,000. Give me your bank account. Like, who falls for that?
just enough people.
Just enough people to make it
Just
happen.
enough. Did anybody have any thoughts on the, you know, graphs and things? Do you run into a lot of that in your work?
Sorry, what?
Graphs and
Graph?
charts and
Oh, graphs. I thought you said grass. Sorry.
I'm
You
in
know,
favor of grass. It's very nice.
In our work, I wouldn't say a lot. In a couple of like the annual report of the pension plan, there'll be bar charts
Mhm.
saying how the pension went up or down, that sort of thing. Wouldn't
Yeah,
say
same
it's
here.
usually a financial thing,
Mhm.
some kind of financial thing, but
Yeah, it's
Other than that,
often
not so
used to
much.
support financial information
Yeah.
because people struggle, I think, to mentally grasp financial information.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
need that visual to go, okay, you know,
Things are okay.
this is what $50 million looks like next to $10 million,
Yeah.
right? It's because the numbers are not something they can deal with mentally.
Yeah.
And scientific information tends
Yeah.
to be
Mm.
in charts and graphs.
Yeah, anything that compares
Comparison.
results.
Graph, yeah.
Yeah. And it's often good to have both the text version and the visual version so that
Mm.
people can sort of interpret the same information two ways. Sometimes you need both.
And three ways in a sense with the cut line kind of interpreting the in
Mhm,
addition to the body text, you know,
That's
just
true. That's
mhm.
true. It's like keep delivering the message.
different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, because some people just can't read the words and make a picture in their head of what they're supposed to be picturing.
Right.
Some people can, some people can't. So, you know, sometimes you need to just deliver the picture.
Mhm. I like to think sometimes we're entertaining them by making it pretty too. Some
Sure.
dull
Yeah.
report. At least we've given them some color, you know?
Yes, that's what stock photography is for.
Yeah, we do that too. Here's some pretty mountains to look at in the meantime, because there's a hole here.
Yeah. Yeah, although, you know, you have to think about stock photography as well, because if you just use a random photo of something to fill a space, I think especially neurodivergent people are going to be like, what does this have to do with mountains? Why am I looking at mountains? What am I supposed to be
Yeah.
thinking about?
Yeah.
You know, what is this doing here? So,
Trying to give
yeah,
you a break, but it's not working.
yeah, yeah,
We just try, well, especially in things like the annual report of the pension plan, every year, it's like, will it be mountains, lakes, ocean, or
yeah.
east coast, or are we doing
Like textbook
prairies this
covers.
year?
Let's
Prairies
let's
this year.
just throw a
Somebody-
dolphin on it.
Yeah.
Everybody loves dolphins.
But yeah, but then it's also
Shark.
Yeah,
about not being like controversial, like trying to
yeah, yeah.
do something that won't be controversial or raise any controversy of any kind. Like,
Right.
you can't argue that much with a lake,
Mhm.
you know? So we kind of leave people out, stuff like that.
Mm,
Anyway,
yeah. Yep. Sure.
here's some rocks. There's nothing to argue about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, does anybody ever come across places where you're supposed to have illustrations for things, showing how to do something, or
Very rarely, once in a blue moon, and our designers are delighted when they get to come up with something. Yeah, it's
yeah.
pretty rare. It's
Okay.
often around some special thing we're doing that might have children, showing them how to do a craft or something.
Okay.
But that's about it. Yeah, once in a blue moon around Christmas, maybe.
Mhm. Did anybody have an opinion on those? The one in the video that was from Public Health with the 4 pictures of how people were supposed to wash their hands and stay at home. And what did you think of
Liked it.
that?
I
Yeah.
liked it. I thought it was well done. You're right about the those 2 people look too close together.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought they could have done that better, but I thought it was attractive and got the message across really sort of in a nice way.
And helpful for people who aren't necessarily fluent in English.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's an interesting one nearby water treatment plant near our place where we walk our dogs behind the plant. And they've been doing construction since the beginning of the pandemic. And there's a big banner on one of their construction trailers that has encouraging people to stay 6 feet apart. They just haven't taken it down. And it has 2 people in hard hats, and it has a ladder between them, like a stretched out ladder. And that was their illustration of how to stay 6 feet apart. It's like one ladder length.
But that would be fun.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
guess
It's
the
appropriate
message.
to the audience, right?
Yeah.
They know what that means. Stay a ladder apart. Okay.
Yeah, we used to have hockey teams with
Mm,
hockey what
Sticks.
is it called? Sticks.
yes.
Words fail us this kind of day.
I don't hang out at the rink much.
Yes. I did see ones where they said stay a hockey stick apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or 3 dogs. Something.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
little dogs or big dogs?
Yeah, exactly. Dogs come in all sorts of sizes. Yeah. So yeah, it was that was an interesting thing to illustrate, you know, because not everybody has a mental understanding
Mhm.
of what 2 meters or 6 feet is.
Right.
Yeah, for some people, numbers just don't register that way. You can throw a number at them, they're like, you know, is that a lot? I don't know.
Yeah, I remember editing a story one time on leatherback turtles, and the author said, it was the size of a high school football field.
Right.
Now, it wasn't, but
That's some turtle.
it's not that. But that was kind of that comparison, I
Yes.
said, well, maybe the size of a mattress, but of course it wouldn't be that big. Anyway,
Americans love comparing things to football fields.
yes,
It's a cultural thing.
It's 3 football fields long.
Yes. Yes.
This would fill 6 football fields.
Yes.
I hate football. I don't know how big the field is.
Yeah.
Care.
Football fields, school buses,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Olympic swimming pools.
yes, that's a good one. That, or not good, but common.
Yeah.
I don't know how big it is.
Well, this is the thing. It's meant to be helpful to help you picture it.
Mhm.
But culturally, if you're not a football fan, you don't know how big a football field is.
But a mattress.
A mattress,
But
everybody
what
has
size
seen,
of what size of a mattress, right?
but still.
A sofa. Yeah.
A lawn chair.
It was 6 lawn chairs long.
Yeah. So yeah, it's another thing you have to think of, right? When you're coming up with these comparisons,
Mm.
is this a comparison to something everybody actually does know, or just everybody who grew up like me,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And people make references to movies, and they make references to pop songs, and they make references to all sorts of things, going, everybody knows that.
Right.
Maybe not.
Everybody in my in-group knows
Yeah.
that.
Well, or maybe everybody, in your generation knows that, or maybe everybody in your country knows that.
Mm.
But maybe people who have moved there in the last 10 years don't know that. So
I still,
yeah.
even though we've had the metric system for years, I learned imperial first. I still do feet and inches. When someone says and when someone says, I want this many grams of something, I just sit there, I can't picture
Mhm.
what that looks like. I just, no
Yep.
matter how much packaging I see in that, I still cannot really, to me, it's cups or ounces or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so
that's,
yeah.
that's something to think about when you're presenting information that way, right? Do you need to put both?
Yeah.
How many different types of people are going to read it? Do they know grams?
Do people actually do, like, can you do a recipe in grams and milliliters?
Oh yeah.
All
All recipes in Europe
Yeah, I know. And I
are
know,
in grams.
I mean,
and-
some Canadian cookbooks will have both. And certainly when I write out recipes for something for work, I put both.
And then you go to
But-
an American recipe site and everything says 1 stick of butter.
Yeah,
We don't use sticks of butter here.
I do because I'm too lazy to measure it out.
Okay, but most people don't. You go to the store, you buy a pound of butter, or 454 grams. And most recipes will say either a certain amount of butter by weight or a certain amount of butter by cups.
Mhm.
But American recipes say
A stick.
stick of butter, just assuming everybody can pull out a stick of butter.
Everybody's got the same sticks.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't get weighing your flour. Are you kidding?
That's more precise.
Yeah, I find the Brits seem to be into weighing the flour. It's like,
Mhm.
no. That's what
Yeah.
the measuring cup is for. Yes. Just, yeah.
I have
so-
other
Yeah.
things to do than weigh my flour. I'm sorry.
You weigh your flour?
No, I said I have better things to do than weigh my flour.
Yeah, I know it's more precise, but I mean, baking is
Baking. Well, baking
is
is
precise, but it's not that precise. Just unless you're making something really weird, your cookies are going to be okay if you don't weigh the flour.
Yeah. Yeah. So recipes are another place where, first of all, assumptions are a big problem. And if you look at old recipes, a lot of old recipes assume people know things that people now don't know. So,
Finger of this, a handful of that.
or, they just tell you to cook it in a moderate oven, right? And that
Till it's done.
until it's done. And, we don't do that anymore. Now we want a temperature and we want a time. Thank you very much. But, at the time that those recipes were written, maybe, people were still using wood ovens and the temperature was not exact. I have a recipe for macaroni and cheese that dates back to probably, I don't know, the 1940s or 50s or something, a classic American recipe. And they tell you to put, to melt butter and then add flour to it to make a roux. They don't specify that you need to cook that for a minute or two before you move on to the next step. And on the online version of that recipe, there are people going, it tasted all pasty and it was terrible, because you can't assume that people know how to make a roux.
No.
You got to tell them. So yeah, recipes are a great place to look at plain language techniques and whether they've been used or not.
Mhm.
Because yeah, culturally, people assume that everybody knows what they know about cooking.
And plus, you've got the thing where the celebrity chefs know their thing, and well, if you don't know it, that you're
Too bad for you.
Yeah, too bad for you.
If you don't know what it means to julienne your vegetables, well, too bad for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, recipes are a great microcosm of plain language nightmares, really.
I love that with the internet. Like I find out that the Brits call all the ingredients different names. Like I had to look up what castor sugar is, and still not quite sure what golden syrup is. And
yeah,
I
golden
love
syrup.
that. And
Yeah.
I go to Google and I go, what does this mean? And I find out that 9 million other people are going, yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What is this in Canadian English?
Yeah, I had that when I moved from Canada to New Zealand for 7 years, and yeah, I showed up there and I'm like, what is this? And I discovered that I'd been reading Harry Potter books. I'm like, oh, treacle tarts are an actual thing. That's not me.
Well, I thought pudding was actual pudding.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, there are a lot of cultural differences with food.
Yeah.
And naming conventions and measuring conventions and cooking conventions.
And different products too.
Yeah. And a lot of things change over time, and old recipes, if you tried to make them today, wouldn't work because our yeast is different, for example. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. But yeah, I think recipes are a great illustration of plain language principles when they're done well, and also a great illustration of what not to do sometimes. Have we explained this properly? Are the steps in the right order? Is any information missing? Have I made any assumptions about what the reader knows? Do I need illustrations? Do I need photographs? It's actually a great way to practice plain language, is to strip down a recipe and see if you can make it work. So were there any other aspects that were of interest? I guess we can look at the homework. I haven't done that. See if I can.
Well, I do find the formatting completely, to me, transforms things, and realize how much it gives you a break from long pieces of text. And I'm looking now, well, I don't usually post the blogs for my organization, but I am thinking we need to start adding some subheadings to help people out. But then I think we tend to have sort of a loyal following of people who like to read these things, but
Right. But even so, you know, I think
Yeah.
people appreciate it when you
Just give them some, you
give
know,
them a little,
signposts.
yeah,
Yeah.
let them skim if they want to skim, you
Yeah.
know. So guide to owning a condo. It's changed fonts on me. I don't know. It's an okay font. It's not a great font.
It's
For
kind
the
of funky,
headings.
but okay.
So this was how I formatted the guide to owning a condo. So there's this bulleted list here. There's, when you say 3 laws, there's a numbered list. And then this one, I did a secondary list that's lettered. I put here, this should have a link. More
Mhm.
information is available on the tribunal website. It should link directly to that. And then I made a text
Oh,
box.
you made a box. I didn't think of
I
that.
made a box.
Could have made a box or a sidebar and gone nuts.
I made a box with a bulleted list.
And actually,
Crazy
that's
talk.
brilliant because this was the one bit I kept playing with where it should appear, and I realized what I
Mhm.
wanted to do was highlight it better.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and this one I thought also should, you know, there should be links
Yeah.
on these
Mhm,
that lead to further information about those specific things.
mhm.
Then more lists. There's all kinds of lists.
Yeah.
But it really makes it much faster for people to sort of very quickly see what's there.
What font did people choose? I went with Arial. I think.
Arial's a
I went
good,
for a real plain,
yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of really plain and solid. Yeah.
Yeah, Arial's a good online font.
And I just kept the colors for the headings black.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I kind of like having colored headings just because it draws your eye to the next thing.
Mm.
But as long as the headings are very obviously headings,
Yes, I did
then that's fine. I think I also like making them a different font so that they pop out. Not necessarily this font though. Don't know what-
It's fun, but it looks a little whimsical for the
it is a little whimsical, yes. And we could do something a little bit more
past. I'll do
there we go.
alien encounters now.
there you go. There's a nice font. Bold and
It's chunky.
Calibri. Good
clear.
old solid Calibri. Here is it. Oh, Arial. Okay.
So that's Arial rounded. So you can see that would be a lot clearer than this. Much bolder, much simpler. And then here I just used bold to make the names of the acts pop out a bit.
I wish I had thought of the text box. I'm gonna go back and fix mine.
In the text box, the opening sentence didn't feel like it led into those 2 points. Did anyone else feel?
Yeah.
I
it's
struggled
not
with where to
great.
put this. There was just something a little bit off for me.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. It doesn't lead directly. It's not like a continual sentence or
Yeah.
anything.
It's like it's saying for more information or
Yeah.
something, or how to
Like
keep
you'd
up to
almost
date.
want to just make that a period. We
Mhm.
are
Yeah,
doing this.
That's what I did.
And then, yeah.
And then I put for more information.
Mhm,
And I made those links actually because I thought that that's what was holding it together was
mhm. Yeah,
learn
they do.
about changes and subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah, they do need to
Both
be
of them,
links.
yeah.
And then the other one.
I looked them up. Walk Wellington actually exists.
I know because I was one of their tour guides
Oh,
and their
isn't that
marketing
nice?
manager for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I had this. I think I set up their first website way back when.
Neat.
Yes, if you're ever in Wellington, New Zealand, be sure to take a walking tour. Um, so this is pretty straightforward. You want to make sure that the important information like the times and dates is easy to find. So people know whether they'd be available for those. There's just lots of white space so that people can easily see it. It's not a big scary block of text. Lots of descriptive headings that ask the questions that probably the readers would ask. What is this? Would I be a good tour guide? What should I do? Well, you can contact us here.
Great.
So I don't know if there was anything anybody tried with this that was a bit different.
I think I broke it up a little bit differently, but pretty much this way. Yeah.
Right.
No box.
No box. No, there's no box in this one.
Is
But there would very likely be pictures.
Right.
Mhm.
Pictures of tour guides guiding people around Wellington.
Is Wellington where you moved to, where you lived?
Yes.
Why
Why would you want to come back? If I had the chance to
I
live in
know.
New Zealand, I wouldn't want to come back.
I know. It was a good run. I was there for 7 years, and basically my parents were getting older and not as healthy, and I thought, well, I'm just, taking 2 days to get back home is too much
Yeah.
if something happens. So I came back. But it is beautiful. Okay, so nobody had any questions about the homework, or?
I think there's different ways of
Yeah.
about it, but I think all of it improves it so much more.
Yeah, for
Break it up
sure.
and
I'm just gonna do this because,
easy old paintbrush.
because it's bothering me now.
And so will you be sending us this answer sheet?
I can post this to Slack as well,
Mhm.
like I did with
Okay.
the other ones. Yeah.
Oh, okay, the other ones are there. Sorry.
Yep.
Thank you.
And so next week, the whole thing is just pick something up from your own world
Mhm.
that you think could use an overhaul for plain language,
Mhm.
and have at it.
Uh,
So the video will just sort of go through, give you an idea of a process you can go through. It's not the only way to do it. It's just a suggestion if you're not sure how to incorporate the various parts of this into, one big project. Certainly there are different approaches and different orders to do things in, if whatever works for you, but it's just one suggestion. So have a look at the video. If you want to, you can, just sort of note down what order it suggests doing things in, and then take your bit of hopefully truly awful writing and fix it. Because this is the most entertaining live session, is
Yeah.
hearing the awful writing that people found.
I am finding from these classes, one thing that's actually starting to drive me crazy. I insisted on editing a form that is just an internal one that our department will use, but it was presented to us at a meeting yesterday. I went over to the big boss later and I said, could I, before you test this out on live people and stuff. Could I just have an edit on it? And she kind of looked surprised. I said, well, so-and-so wrote it. And I said, I know, but I just, maybe it's just me being, in a plain language class right now, but I can't give you an answer to some of the questions that are on it, because I'm
Right.
not sure what you're asking. So I went at it this morning and I thought, if nothing else, I would just like I'm in a communications department. I would like us to remember that everything we present to anybody is a communication, and we need to model the
Mhm,
way to do it. And just going, well, it's just an internal form, why does it matter? Is
Yeah,
not
internal
modeling how to
communications
do things,
is so overlooked and so costly to companies when they get it wrong. The amount of employee time that's wasted
Oh,
because
yeah.
of bad internal communication
Yeah.
is so expensive for companies, and they don't recognize it, most of them.
mhm.
But I flagged a couple of things I still don't have answered. I said, I
Yeah.
don't know what you're asking here. I mean, could you give me an example of what you're after?
Yeah,
Because you're leaving things so open-ended. I don't know how an employee would answer this.
right.
If you're after a particular kind of answer, then at least give an example of the kind of answer, something. But yeah, no, it's starting to bother me that we pick on other departments' work, and we're paid to kind of fix their work. But our own department is kind of, to my mind, it's pretty sloppy about its own internal stuff. And I think we shouldn't be telling anybody else what to do or how to do it if we don't get our own. But then
Yeah.
I go, well, no one else will read it. It's like, I don't care. I'm reading
Yeah.
it. I don't like it. And I don't think our staff could understand these questions.
It's like the cobbler's children who have the worst shoes, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, the other editor, my co-pilot, and I were watching the presentation, just went, oh my God, like let's still read it at least. And at the end of it, she goes, I can't handle this. I'm just going over later and saying, this needs to be edited. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But that's great, because
Yeah,
the more you
yeah.
do that, the more people
Yeah.
get into the mindset that
Yeah.
internal stuff does need a second
Well,
set of
I
eyes.
want them to learn how to write more clearly, because
Yeah.
they're the managers and stuff, and they should. The thing is, I can get away with this. I'm retiring in a couple of years, so it's like, whatever, make my day, get mad at me. I don't care anymore. So I can get away with it. Some people are a little more reticent.
You can speak truth to
I
power.
can speak truth to power, and luckily we have managers who can handle it.
Yeah, that's good. Well,
I-
you will
I-
leave your stamp.
I feel the same way, just stating your case. I mean, you don't have to buy into the outcome, but for me, I do have to state my, say what I believe and what I think, and then
Mhm.
wherever it goes, but
Yep.
Yeah, like when you say, if you are wanting a change to a web interface, blah, 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 and I wrote back and said, are you saying a change to a web page, a website? What is this? Like, what are you talking about? But things like that, like, what is it that you're
And-
asking people that they might want? I don't
Why are you saying if you are wanting instead of if you want?
Yeah, or yeah, anyway, the whole thing was bizarre. And anyway, and I got what this other manager wrote it, and and she's not a good writer, and she would probably be the first person to say so. So she's a data person,
Yeah.
and that's her strength. So why would you let her do the writing? But anyway, whatever.
exactly, yeah. Play to your strengths.
You're there to save the day.
I'm there to just drive them crazy. I'm kind of enjoying it.
Somebody has
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. Okay, ladies. Well, thank you. This was fun.
you.
Thanks. We'll see.
And we'll do it all one more time next week.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. Take it
Thank
easy. Have a good
you.
week.
Have
Good
a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Michelle.